So I first learned to ascend a few years ago now, and I had a great life. I had a well-paying job. I lived by the beach in an apartment that was only like 50 yards from the beach, and I loved that. But I noticed I still wasn't totally satisfied with my life. My friends were fantastic. They were all a joy to be with. Work I enjoyed, but there were elements of it that I would get caught with, and some things to do with it would seem like a chore. So I started kind of like experimenting with different ways that might ease that part of my life, and eventually I learnt to ascend. And it was at the point of learning to ascend that I learnt that I had a racing mind, and that's where the complication was. The job itself wasn't complicated, it was me complicating it by looking at all the different permutations and combinations, and particularly what could go wrong, instead of just flowing with what was actually right with it. So what I found after I learnt to ascend was that there was a natural relaxation that started to occur. When I'd sit down to write, for example, a business proposal, that would flow. I wouldn't be stopping and starting and going all over the place and wondering if what I was putting in was right or wrong and rewriting it 3 or 4 times. It would just flow. So I'd write it in half the time that it would take me to write it before I learnt to ascend. And that with doing that, I found that there was a clearer communication with the clients and a clearer communication with the people within the organisation. So everything that was complicated with work all of a sudden became very easy. I just had to make sure that I did the work in using the techniques. And even though it sounds like, oh, there's something else to add to what I was doing, it actually simplified it immensely because my mind wasn't racing all over the place. All of a sudden things were occurring like that. You know, I'd bed down a deal with a client and it would take that to do, you know. And the client would be very happy, and there'd be this great relationship that would develop from that. So ultimately I realized that the experience I was having in that was the way that life was meant to be lived, because there was just a natural flow, there was a natural peace, there was a natural joy, and it was unending. It wasn't broken up, ultimately not broken up by all those thoughts that I thought were the reality. I discovered a different reality. It was that simple. I discovered a different reality, and life changed completely from that.